Charmaine, peace and freedom. Ekuibu, come on in the house. Mimi, welcome. I'm Queen Mother Imaku. It's a pleasure to be with you on this fine day. Yes, I am actually live. Let me tell you what happened the other day. So I pre-recorded an hour's segments, and I figured let me just try this feature that they have here on Restream where you're able to set it on this loop feature. I did not know it was going to be looping all night, and that it did. I fell asleep and I woke up and I was still talking. It was looping for 10 hours. I looked at the comments. People were like, Queen Mother, why aren't you answering me? Poor Brandon said, Queen Mother, it's been 3 hours. I can't breathe. I'm so sorry. But right now, I am actually here live and I apologize. Hey, technology, you got to try things out in order to learn. So now I know if you set it on loop, it's just going to say that you're live even if you aren't. So lesson learned. I'm sorry. But I love those of you who hung in there. Poor Joanne. She was cleaning her house and she said, hey, didn't she say that already? It was a couple hours in. It's a beautiful day. Why? Because we are here. And so I figured let me come on before I have my therapy in less than an hour. Just want to share some thoughts, some motivation, some inspiration, some information. And I have two back-to-back sessions. One is, a general group therapy session, and another one is my financial wellness after DB session. And wow, both of them are powerhouse sessions that I have, but that financial one has really been pulling my life together in all kinds of new ways. I have been cutting corners, sewing things together, and taking a new look at things in ways that I had not before. After you go through trauma and you are facing things in a different way, you have to look at how you are dealing with your money. Sometimes you're holding on to it too tightly. Sometimes you are looking at how you have to rearrange things. And by the way, if you are here, please say hello. And so that's making me actually strengthen things. When you have a different perspective on things, then it's so helpful. Let me tell you something that I realized also when it came to my perspective on money, because this has been something I've actually been grappling with for a while and looking at how I deal with my money. And just this morning, I had a major epiphany. I mean, major, major, major. And for this, I must thank Hector Salva, Papa Hector Salva, who is the author of The 21 Divisions, The Mysteries and Magic of Dominican Voodoo. But I was listening to his audio book, Espiritismo, because I don't know if you all knew this. I have so many facets of my life that I've done so much. But a long time ago, I think I did mention the fact that I was a Kardecian. I went to a metaphysical church, as many of you do know, but prior to that, it was called a Spiritist church. And what in the world is all this background stuff that I'm hearing? I'll tell you, Restream, your music is so strange. I'm going to the music studio in a little while too. So I am working on some background music for myself because this stuff, it just never seems to really hit the mark. Anyway, so this Spiritist church is based on Allan Kardec philosophies, right? So what does that mean? It was a medium church. I don't mean like high, low, medium. I mean that it dealt with spiritism. Spirits, being able to communicate with spirits, having them come through, that kind of thing. And, I was just looking, excuse me. I was just looking for folks to hang out with who are also psychics. Now I'm going to turn this music off. It always seems like I start out with some music that I like, and then things kind of fall off the rails with this restream AI music. You hear that? It sounds like somebody's like throwing some dice. Okay. Let's see. Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna turn this off. Okay. Okay. Yeah. So I was just looking for some folks to hang out with who were fellow psychics and who were into the whole spiritual vibe, who were healers, and where I could get some camaraderie and also who I could hone my skills with, drop in when I felt like it. It turned into something more. And it was a cool place to go because every week the ministers, um, the ministers were every week they were different, and everyone would bring their own message of their own variety, and there would always be somebody bringing forth psychic messages for the congregation, and there were always healing ministers. This is a regular part of the weekly service, right? And eventually I ended up becoming a minister. Y'all have heard the story. So in Papa Hector's book, we give him his respect. I always want to say his title. And so this morning he was explaining so many of the differences. I'm saying this morning because I've been listening to the book. I've been listening to it over the past couple of days. And this morning it got to the chapter in explaining the difference between Puerto Rican Espiritismo, which has some similarities with the Kardecian Spiritism, and the differences. Well, here's the thing that really got me. Birdie, how are you this morning? Here's what got me, and here's what I realized has messed me up in my approach to money and spiritism. The Kardecian approach, and Allan Kardec, who was the one who codified spiritism. And it's a very interesting approach because it helps you to understand about mediumship and spirit communication. There are two books, actually. Okay, two major books. We wrote many, but there are two major books. And I remember even when I found these two books at a garage sale, of all things. And everything's good. Everything's good, sis. Everything, I can't complain. Yeah, I found these two books at a garage sale. I did not even realize that this church I've been going to had been basing its own approach and philosophy on Allan Kardec. And I bought the books, and I remember bringing them to the world religion teacher at the church and showing them to her, and she was like, oh, where did you get those? And I said, I got them at a garage sale. She said, at a garage sale? Oh my goodness. She said, Spirit put them in your path. I said, I guess so. She said, those are very hard to get. Oh my goodness. So I was like, okay. And so that kind of opened the door to her being able to have more open discussion about them, because I guess everybody had been sort of like, shh, about don't tell the newcomers this is what we believe. So anyway, Um, but, and I should also say, I think I've always told you that I was one of only three Black people in that church. And I kept asking my ancestors, why do y'all have me here? and, um, they're very warm and welcoming and all this. And I was there for about 9 years. Um, and I remember there was always this thing about, oh, no, we don't charge. The gift of spirit is free. So we don't charge, sometimes they would ask for free will offerings, but still, if you had it, fine. But even still, they didn't put a price on it and all of this. I did not know that that was a Kardecian thing. Okay. And the thing is that the Allan Kardec philosophy, the Allan Kardec followers, now, this was like a thing that was devised by these elitist, shishi-foo-foo French folks. They were wealthy, but they were also real racist. And they felt that, first of all, they felt that people of color were beneath them. I didn't know this. This was never said at the church I went to, and it's interesting because they were not rich. These were not rich people. These were very working class, Pennsylvania Dutch kind of people, right? And actually, one of the reasons I left the church toward the end was because things changed with the founders, where they were saying that earth-based beliefs and African religions they felt were demonic. It's like, the heck you say, what? What are you talking about? I mean, it just shocked a lot of us because there were a lot of us in the church who were obviously not African practitioners. Because like I said, only three of us in the church were people of color. There were a lot of people who were Native American practitioners, and some consider themselves to be quote unquote pagan. But things just all of a sudden like flipped. So I left. But in terms of any knowledge of the history of Allan Kardec, I didn't know. I had no idea. I didn't find out the truth about that until a few years ago when I started hanging out with Umbandistas and found out that it was a philosophy that was basically overthrown in Brazil because of the so-called low-class people that were looked down upon in Brazil because of that separation, because Allan Kardec's teachings were so widely embraced. But then Umbanda developed because that notion was rejected. And then also in other parts of Spanish-speaking cultures, especially in Afro-Latin cultures, where Spiritism or Espiritismo was embraced, and also the African spiritual systems were widely embraced, but the elitism was rejected. Okay, but I didn't know about this ideology that you should do spiritual work for free. So Papa Hector broke it down so beautifully that, the notion that spirit work should be for free is basically a bunch of hooey. Because look, if you really understand this and you look going back to the history of indigenous culture, the spirit worker of a community, the shaman, if you will, okay, the folk doctor was taken care of very well because they kept the community alive. It was like if you sent a doctor off to school, you sent your son off to school. Look at all the money that went into the education, goes into the education, right? And then they have a right then to charge the fees that they do because that's a specialty field. And it's not like somebody could just come out of high school and then go and set up their shingle. Okay, it's not like that. So it's the same thing with spirit work today and the way it was back then. It was honored, it was respected, and it's like that now. Listen, if you don't understand, spirit work takes work. It really knocks you out. And even, and this, listen, for my spiritual children who just don't understand, and I'm putting my foot down with this. I decided the other night I have to put my foot down with this, and I put my foot down. It used to be they would call up and say, listen, I have this situation. Can you give me the hekawu for it? Okay, can you give me the spiritual mantra that I need to chant to go along with it? Okay, what's the situation? Okay, boom, boom, boom. Okay, Queen Mother, thank you. Okay, click. You don't think that took some expertise on my part to be able to put that that alchemical formula together for you? One person recently did, and then the situation came through, and it was a big monetary benefit to this person, and the best that you could do is break me off $20 while you're off traipsing all across the world doing whatever. Okay, that's an insult. It really is. No more of that. And a lot of that it used to be acceptable to me back in the day, but over the years, I'm 65 years old. I've been doing spiritual work since my 20s. Okay, whether it is helping people through oracle readings, whether it's been doing healing work, and through various modalities. I've been trained through various modalities, all right? I mean, all kinds of things, exorcisms, all kinds of things, right? I am initiated through several traditions. And I've had so much confusion in my mind as to if and how much to charge. Not anymore. Not anymore. No more guilt about it. And it wasn't until this morning, thank you, Papa Hector, that it was made crystal clear. Crystal clear. That ideology was put in my head from a system that holds no weight. Okay, so from an elitist class that probably saw doing that work as some charitable, well, actually, it was seen as charitable work. But these folks had loot. And it was probably seen as, oh, I'm going to help the poor. Oh. I don't know that I'd want to have any help from people who just saw it as in that frame of mind. No. No. And, there are people who are willing to drop hundreds of dollars on a concert ticket to see performers, many of whom have honed their craft. As an artist, I can tell you, if you truly are wonderful at what you do, then you have put your time in. You have paid your dues, I'm going to use Beyonce as an example, as a contemporary example, because you're talking about a lot of rehearsal time to be up there and make it look easy. I'm going to go back even further. For those of you who have watched I Love Lucy, and now there are clips that they have of her on YouTube, seeing her in her perfected state, comedic actress. People say comedian. She was not a comedian. She was a comedic actress. And she spent hours rehearsing her bits, okay, to make it look as though it was natural. When you hone your craft to the point where it just flows out of you, okay, but it's the same way also when you are a healer, okay, when you know your stuff. If you are a speaker and you're able to just get up there and it flows out of you because you know your stuff. When you put in the years of speaking over and over again in different places, you're in front of different audiences and you are able to read the crowd and you know, okay, I'm going to speak on this. You know what you're worth. And I go and speak in different places. And, people say to me, what is your fee? And knowing how to negotiate, and starting out by breaking the ice and saying, well, I'm not going to go 2 states over for $50, okay? Although for some people, I do have to make that clear. No, I'm not going to go over 2 states for $50, okay? What is your worth? What is your worth? What is your worth? Let me just take a moment to just share. And I'm on the air. How do you determine your worth? The workshops that I have been on for finances, wow, that's been so great. Today we're talking about investing. That's not something I know a whole lot about. It's something I've checked out over the years. It's something that my daughter actually, when she was in high school, started learning about, and she said, Mommy, you should start investing. Way back in the 90s, she was talking to me about it. And now here we are, it is 2025, readdressing the issue. Because security is an important thing. The word ardi means to be secure, to be safe. It's important to not be hanging by a thread. It's important to not let people feel guilty about the fact that you don't want to live in an insecure state. It's important to be able to declare what your value is, what determines your value, what determines your self-worth. We have somebody right now in office who does not care about our self-worth. So what do? One thing that's wise is looking around and assessing, what do you have? Okay, what can I let go of? What do I really need? That's a wise thing to do. Okay. In valuing your assets. Okay. What do I invest in that I can pull in? Okay. I'm excited about this investment class today. We've been sharing ideas also. We have a great teacher, I'll tell you. And as we've been sharing ideas, I've also talked about, let me turn the volume down on this so I don't get to hear myself talking. It's important that we spend wisely, right? And I was sharing from the very first class in terms of saving money, because I don't like to spend a lot of time walking around the supermarket. So I like shopping at Aldi because they have nice gourmet items that are inexpensive. And where I like cooking my food. I'm not one to go out to restaurants a lot. I really don't. And I like having my groceries delivered. and um, it doesn't cost a lot of money. I choose the option of where I can have them delivered for free, right? And the same money that I would use in transportation is the same money I would use for a tip. Actually, it comes out to less, because to me that's smart. That's smart. I do things like that. Okay. So again, the wisdom factor. And let's see, where would I share? Okay. How do you guys save money? How do you all save? Did I say you guys? I don't even say that. How do you all save money? What's important for you all when it comes to saving money? Oh, and here's something that I decided to do. I briefly mentioned it the other day. Again, in the quest for healing and saving money, going to start doing uh, online retreats so that you're able to relax at home and you're able to um, get good information for how to restore yourself, to big yourself up, to learn good information and in the comfort of your home, to do chair yoga also, and a good home project that's going to um, be educational but also fun. And so you don't have to also go through the stress of retreats because retreats can actually be um, stressful. I have found. So uh, I'll be putting up the information about that. That'll be a one time a week, um, a week, one time a month online retreat. Give me some feedback. How does that sound to you all? Let's share this. And also, um, in oh yes, for people who had asked me about the process of getting a Kemetic Ren or name. So there is a process, and I also will be bringing the price down for a limited time, so you can reach out to me for that as well. It's called a mini initiation process, and so you can ask me about that. And also, people who want consultations, you can reach out to me about that as well. Okay. So, any other questions? As I'm sipping on my Bendicida cup. This is why it's important to go back and look at what has influenced you. You have to stop and think about all the things that go into your head, right? The things that you don't even think about, right? The things that influence you and you don't even really think about it. Especially during the time that I was younger, there was so much of the kind of do what you want to do hippie sort of a thing, and free spirit sort of a thing. And I tend to be a free spirit. The whole discipline thing is something that, well, I can't say that I was never a disciplined person, because the fact that I've had a career in the arts, and in talking about making things look easy, even though you had to put hard work into it. You had to rehearse over and over again in order to learn as a dancer, as an actress, as a visual artist. All of that took great discipline. So I can't say that I was an undisciplined person, but as a result, you did look for places where you could just kind of like, you know, loosen up and be yourself. And I guess with spirituality, I was sort of hoping that that would be the case, although I was seeking greater discipline as an African faith practitioner. And so I ended up seeking that out, right? But it's such a strange time coming up in the 60s through the 90s. Such a strange time, trying to define yourself as a person of color, trying to find out exactly where you fit in, trying to find influences that really matched you, and just trying to seek out, and then seeing the things that ended up causing damage to your psyche, but that also built you. But then also, as we continue to try to find ourselves as people of African consciousness, then still finding things that damaged you, but then finding things that built you up. It's been a very experimental process over these last several decades, because even throughout that too, we found ourselves going through we're not going to charge our people that much, and found ourselves taken advantage of, and it's been rough. It's been really rough. Then there's been the whole thing about overcharging, but still overall finding our own worth, just like the process of finding an African name that suits you, that came out of who you were from your birth name, your birth name, from finding your birth date, finding from your family, and finding your roots, finding out your family history, finding your family stories, finding the family practices that reaffirmed who you are, who you were, and also spoke to where you're going. For me, that has said so much, so very much. And also finding out the gifts of spirit that have prevailed in the family, that has said so much more than any of the experiences of studying Allan Kardec and all of this, which didn't really vibe with me. Interesting to learn, but in finding out directly from dealing with your ancestors and the ways that your ancestors communicate, our ancestral practices, and the importance of continuing the ways that our ancestors communicate and communicated, listening for their voices and for the symbols, knowing the importance of tradition. That is worth everything. Everything. Knowing what traditions have been persistent in the bloodlines. What defines you? What truly speaks to you? I tell you, finding out that Mami Wata has been in the bloodline, wow. You're talking about a turnkey. An absolute turnkey. Full circle, bringing everything together. Everything. And so if you'd like to find out more about the Mami Wata traditions and how far reaching they are, how far reaching they have been, then please feel free to reach out. If you'd like a consultation regarding that, then please reach out. So empowering, so beautiful, so defining. And yes, even going back to Kemet. So amazing. And so the classes for that has been ongoing, and a new round of classes have begun. And again, you know, the elders used to say, keep living. At 65, I'm here to tell you, it's so true. Keep living. You'd be shocked. You'd be shocked. I look back at the things that my grandparents and their siblings were engaged in, and now I have an understanding, you know, the things that they didn't talk about, but the things now I understand, and all the different practices, the stuff that you see on the screen in centers. And by the way, I did a review of that. You can go and take a look at what I shared. That was a couple of videos back. But he says, yes, that's what they would say. Keep living because you haven't seen nothing yet. That's the truth. That's the truth. I haven't seen nothing yet. Mm-hmm. Yes, indeed. And I think that there's more to come. I give thanks and praise for each breath that I still have in my body and each step I'm still able to make, and for the wisdom that I have to leave behind as a teacher, as an elder, for all the mysticism that I've experienced, all the things that my grandparents encouraged us to do. And in truth, they were the ones who encouraged us to be free spirits. You know, my grandmother who let me play in the rain, they were the ones who encouraged us to play out in nature. You know, the amazement, yet the subtle surprise that they had for, you know, for their letting us, you know, for, at least for me, they're letting me call the birds to come to me, and, you know, different animals to come to me, and, you know, for my being able to silently call my parakeet to me with my mind, you know, just think in my mind, Elton, come, and just put my finger up, and my parakeet would open up the cage in my bedroom and come to and fly to me in the living room. And for them to just hone this in me, to be one with nature, for them to encourage my cousins and me to go and play with the stones um, and to just go and play down by Blackbrook Park and play with the frogs and to not be afraid. You know, I think about when I was teaching the young men who were in lockdown in a juvenile center out in Brooklyn. And so the advisors there asked me if I could get the young men to paint a mural on this wooden fence outside. And I said, sure. So we first had to scrub the fence down. I had my overalls on, and I'm out there, we're out there scrubbing the fence. And one of them saw a snail and didn't know what it was. And they jumped back and they're all going, ew, ew. These big 6-foot boys towering over me. I was in my 40s, in my late 40s. And I said, stop. It's just a snail. And it was beautiful, beautiful luminescent shell, I gave them my camera phone and I showed them how to take a picture of it, because I used to encourage them to take my camera and take pictures, right? And so I told them how to capture the light and how to get it just right so there wouldn't be shadow. So they started taking pictures. And I encouraged them to take pictures of the grass and the flowers and so forth. But I was just so shocked. These boys, these were Crips and Bloods and Latin Kings out there afraid of a little teeny snail this big. I was out there, I had the music on, everything, and I'm dancing and scrubbing down. Everything just stopped and them hollering like they were little girls. I'm like, stop it. It's come to that. Like, what? Yeah, I left there worried that day. So, and in my last video, and I edited it down because I saw that by the time they stopped running it showed it was 9 hours. So I edited it down to the original 57 minutes, okay? So I talked about the importance of the Queen Mother. The original Queen Mother role in the Mami Wata tradition was of the cultural keeper, the mystic, the teacher, the politician, the leader, but also she taught the children. We need to have the Queen Mothers again to teach the children and to lead and to reconnect our children with nature. Nature is our power source. The Queen Mothers, there are Queen Mothers in the motherland today who control nature because also the Queen Mothers have the ability, if they are on point, to control nature when we are on point. We need to connect our children to that in the same way that my grandparents taught us to be in touch with nature. You see? Our children need us. Bertie says, because they never got the chance to really play outside, being able to use their imagination. That's exactly right. That's exactly right. I felt sad for them. Because they're complaining like, it's hot out here in the sun. A bunch of them are trying to be in the shade. I'm like, come on, y'all. Come on. Yeah. Okay. If any of you would like to make a donation, donations are certainly welcome. You can go to my PayPal at, before I hop off of here, because I always forget to do this. My PayPal is at Muchekamet at yahoo.com. My Cash App is $Elaine. Oops. Lloyd Nazario. What is my Venmo? I can't remember my Venmo. And I have a Zelle, but that's good. That's good. Oh, I guess putting it on the screen would be a good thing. And donations are always welcome. Because I do a lot for this community. I do. Okay, thanks. Okay, it's time for me to hop off here. And again, if you want to know more about, oh yeah, and that's another thing I want to say. I've done a lot of free services online, and I realized I basically have taught a lot of people. I've given a lot of information here for people to truthfully steal from me. I've taught them how to do service so they can go and do it someplace else without any validation and initiation or anything like that, which is really not cool. I've had people clamoring to buy my books so they can go and bring it to somebody else who is not initiated so they can try to replicate it because they're trying to prove that there's somebody that they're not. I know I've talked about this before, but a lot of people are talking about this, not just me. A lot of other spiritual leaders are facing the same thing. I'm talking brass tacks. This is the truth. So, as a result, a lot of spiritual leaders are bringing it inside. They're doing online service where, yes, you can come, but you've got to sign up and you've got to pay a donation. That's the way that's where we're at right now. Okay, where you're welcome to come, but now it's like that. Okay, because this is not like church. All right. I mean, it's supposed to be like church, but unfortunately, this is a different kind of practice. And we've got too many charlatans out here. That's the way it is. That's the reality of the world that we're living in. So I'll be coming on continuing to bring motivational messages, but as far as the Shenu service is concerned, just like with so many of the other ATR services, this is the way that it is now. That's the reality of our world. And that's in order to protect the practice and to protect you all from these charlatans, okay? I'm saying this with as much love as I can muster. This is the world that we're living in, okay? So that information will be up on the website. And also the Shanu website is going to be merged with the Imaku website. So that URL will be bringing you to the Imaku site. This is for the protection of the practice. This is for the protection of all of you who I love so very dearly. And this is doing what we can to, again, stop feeding the charlatans. Okay? There's somebody I know who announced she's getting ready to start something, and I've been feeding this person. She's been following me for nigh on 20 years. Like, okay, and ain't got initiation the first, but then okay, I'll have to fix that. Okay, all right. Love you all. Have an excellent, excellent, excellent day. And know that you are worth the best. Check how you value yourself. Don't let anybody tell you that you are not worth it. Uphold your standards. Maintain your standards. Be the best. You are the best. Don't accept anything less. Brody, it looks like you have a message up here. Oh, thank you. Thank you for the love. Okay. We say Maria, which means much love. Heri, which means be at peace. Teni, which means to be accountable. Jebewi, which means to extend mercy in the right places. And men, I'm sorry, I get emotional because I think of my father because he always said this, stay sweet. Men, Nijem, stay sweet.